Good afternoon, Drugs, Brain, and Behavior, Summer 2025. My name is Eric Olson, and I'm going to be a professor this term. I've been studying drugs for approximately 20 years now. I earned my PhD at Wake Forest University School of Medicine and finished under 5 years because I did my PhD on cocaine. I also studied some alcohol during this period of time. And then I went on to do my postdoctoral research at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, where I primarily studied cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system. I have published a lot of many papers on each. I also was a guest researcher at the National Institute on Drug Abuse in Maryland. There I did some work primarily on cocaine again. I've also worked with many other classes of drugs. In this class, we'll go over a couple of my recent papers involving undergraduate students from CU Denver, involving opioids, and also a little bit on the cannabinoids as well. I have had a lot of experience with working with very many different drugs of abuse and psychiatric drugs at this point in time. And, am happy to share some of the knowledge that I've obtained, but also to try to provoke thought and, lead you through some thought-provoking considerations involving drugs of abuse. So now I'm going to share my screen with you and go over the syllabus briefly. So this is an asynchronous online course, meaning that by default we'll never have to meet in person in the same room at the same period of time. I understand and respect that many of you have various life commitments, and and that's perfectly fine. I think online classes, very much can make education accessible to everybody, regardless of our other life commitments, so including full-time jobs, family responsibilities, etc. I've even, had students deployed overseas, students living all around the country under various circumstances. So know that I'm willing to work with you and happy to do so. Regarding office hours, please feel free to, because this is an asynchronous online course, I think that it doesn't work very well when I just have one fixed Zoom meeting for everybody to come to, because that might be when you have to work, or that might be when you have to pick up your kid, or so on and so forth. So I want everybody to feel very free to email me and request an on-demand Zoom meeting at any period of time. I'll also respond to email, definitely within 48 hours. If you have not heard from me within 48 hours, feel free to give me a push, a little kick, follow-up email. We also have the virtual office, which is a discussion forum where you can post and I monitor in real time and try to get back to you as quickly as possible. In this class, we'll really study three sections. First, we'll cover basics in pharmacology, specifically pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, or how drugs get into the blood and then to the brain, and then pharmacodynamics being the interaction between the chemical and the receptor. We will learn about, then we'll study drugs of abuse and drug addiction. And then finally, we'll get into how several psychiatric drugs produce their therapeutic effects. Um, there is no required textbook here. If you look through this syllabus later on, you'll find many links that will bring you to the relevant course material, in addition to supplemental readings that I would like you to look at, or additional videos, various forms of media to consider drugs, or that will help you consider drugs. If any of these links fail for some reason, that does happen from time to time, please let me know and I will find a replacement link for you. Active participation is very important in this class. This is not one of those classes where I give you something to read and then determine all of your grade based off of it, off of a quiz later. This is going to be a very interactive class. I take class discussion very seriously. I deeply value deep thinking and critical thinking. It is my belief that these are really the most important concepts of a college class, And then content memorization comes a few steps later after skill development and several other concepts that I value more. But nothing do I value more than you thinking deeply and critically about drugs from various perspectives. And also feel free to disagree with me during these times and disagree with the source material. I want you to think critically. I want you to, I will at times provoke and find material that is provocative uh, for the purpose of, trying to evoke deep and critical thoughts. And it's perfectly fine, if not encouraged, to push back against me or the course material. I encourage it. I do believe also in flexibility. I think that it's a very important part of modern pedagogy. So while I do want you to stay active consistently in every module of this class, I do know that life happens. For this reason, I have built in, several, escape routes when you run into trouble or competing life events, or maybe you also run into, uh, other things that prevent you from. There's so many examples that I could give you, but know that I understand that life happens, and not only have I built in drops to allow you to fail or even skip a quiz. Uh, I also am understanding of life events. So if you have an unprecedented circumstance come up in your life, I encourage you to email me and we will find a way through it. I really don't want to leave anybody behind or have anybody drop out because they feel that they have, missed too much time. It's best to email me early in this process if you do see something serious, coming up. And also know that, again, I've dealt with many different things, including, deployments, health concerns, child parental health concerns, criminal justice issues, uh, becoming unhoused. I mean, there's so many different things that can come up. So also know that I will respect you, and I'm not going to ask you a ton of probing questions or ask for documentation or anything like this. I will respect you as a person and take you for your word. My goal is to get you through this class, have you think critically and deeply about drugs, and learn the requisite content so you could go on to medical school and compete with everybody else in pharmacology at that level with some content uh, knowledge. But sticking to the schedule is important. I highly recommend that you follow the schedule of events as best as you can. Just know that I am flexible and forgiving. The course format is going to be delivered in 15 different modules. There'll be a new module approximately every 4 days over the summer. What this will consist of is a few recordings of me, and you will then be quizzed for your content knowledge based off of those recordings. So that's pretty traditional. There is another component where you will be given sort of critical thinking material and a prompt every module. This critical thinking material could be videos or research articles or lectures from other speakers or drug policy information. I would like you to respond to at least one prompt that you are given and then interact with your peers through a discussion forum. Finally, there is a media club component to the class that I will get to in a little bit. But this is sort of I think, a fun outside of the box way of thinking about drugs, but I also think it's very important. It certainly isn't busy work. Uh, uh, Specifically, you will be given a list of film or music options associated with drugs. And I would like you to consider these and then bring in your own film and music preferences if you like, if you don't love all of the ones that I provided, and discuss drugs within the context of these films or music with your peers, and eventually also develop a critical thinking paper associated with that. So there will be a quiz each module. But again, I you can earn up to two drops. One is a freebie just for, I acknowledge that life happens. We'll just give you one drop. And then the other uh, drop can be earned if you complete your FCQs at the end of the year. Note that these are anonymous, but I can tell how many people, what percentage of students have completed the FCQs, and there is a minimum cutoff to earn that last or to keep that last drop. So again, you will be also provided this critical thinking material. So in response to this, in a prompt, I would like you to submit a 100 to 200 word summary of your thoughts on it, and then respond to several of your peers to earn full credit. And again, there is this media club that I am going to get back to. And actually, we cut the literature component this term. So you will join either a movie club or a music club. And that will be a learning community that you are in for the duration of the course, where you are discussing drugs within the context of film or music with your peers. Based off of that discussion, I would like you to think of one topic that is very interesting to you that you would like to explore further. There are so many different options that you can go in here. You could explore psychedelics, for example, and how, Bill Polian is part of the film series. If you wanted to take a deep dive into psychedelics in some various setting, either for mental health, addiction prevention. Some explore the legality of it all, the First Amendment rights with the religious exemption. There are very many avenues you can take there. Some have explored, some other great essays that I've had involve exploring the important sensitive concepts involving indigenous communities and drugs of abuse. For example, one film that you'll have access to explores, how sort of the cannabis industry has sort of demolished and displaced some indigenous communities. Another option would be how the drug war has impacted minoritized populations in particular, how the prison system, specifically has led to the incarceration of sort of very targeted communities. Um, but those are only some examples. I've also received multiple biopics, which is sort of a fun one. I've had biopics on Kid Cudi, on James Taylor. I've had a biopic on a fictional biopic of a sort of a made-up rock star that was, came into fame and fortune and unlimited access to drugs, and they sort of made up how that life spiraled out of control. You can talk about drugs potentially freeing the mind, leading to potential improvement in a therapeutic setting. You can talk about the dangers of drugs. Maybe cannabis isn't quite as harmless as people might have you believe. There will be, for example, one mixtape on sort of the drug anthems, the many drug anthems related to cannabis. I've had essays both on, how they agree and how cannabis is, helpful for society and blah, blah, blah. I've had also many essays arguing that cannabis is incredibly harmful. And these sorts of mixtapes are leading us astray, or this sort of drug cannabis anthem that was, a response to Anslinger and Reefer Madness and these things. But maybe that response went too far as well. That there are a lot of dangers associated with cannabis as well. Some have linked it to psychiatric disease, particularly psychosis and schizophrenia. There's also emerging evidence that it can impact cardiac function. So, there are also some that might argue that it can lead to use and abuse of opioids and other dangerous, more dangerous drugs. Another avenue, many people have argued or brought up social concepts to consider involving drug addiction and cultural concepts. Not only the drug war, but I mean, how does poverty impact drug addiction? So these are sort of more outside of the box concepts. For this traditional version of this class, which is still neuroscientific at its core, in lecture, we're primarily going to be focusing on drugs in the brain. I particularly like this assignment because it brings out a lot of critical thinking that's a bit outside of the box. We didn't really talk much about the drug war and, the influences of the criminal justice system and poverty and the impact of drugs on indigenous communities, on minoritized communities. None of these things came up when I was only lecturing about neuroscience. And I think that this is a much richer class when we are discussing some of these outside of the box concepts. And importantly, you have complete freedom and flexibility here. It's almost some students are a little concerned about how free it is, but I think that any constraint stifles creative thought. So I am going to continue leading this to be somewhat of a blank slate, a creative freedom assignment. You can skip any movies, any mixtapes that you like. And I do that intentionally as well for many reasons. Some of the films can be triggering. Some of the music mixtapes can be triggering. The first couple mixtapes and the Cannabis Anthems, almost promote drug exploration, drug use. That can be very problematic for somebody that is in recovery. I acknowledge that. If that is something that you would struggle with or struggle hearing, skip it. There's no to earn full credit for the media assignment. You only have to post 6 total discussions in your learning community. You don't have to post on every single mixtape or movie. You can also bring in movies and music that are meaningful to you, to your culture, to your background, and emphasize those in your discussion posts. And then your essay can be on anything that is inspired by this music or movie or film that you've consumed at that point in time. Based on that, you're going to first submit an outline to me at midterm so we can at least get on the same page. I've only turned down one outline in my life. I think it's very unlikely that that is going to happen. I will point that outline did involve a an idea that a student had about performing more drug testing on prison populations and how that might be a better idea to get around animal testing and these things. And while I'm very much on board and open to having discussions about alternatives to animal testing, including computational approaches, it would be highly unethical to test these on prison populations. So that's the only outline that I've rejected. So it would take that level of sort of an ethical concern for me to push back on an outline submission. Um, and then, based off of my feedback on that outline, you will develop a critical thinking essay that will take the place of your final exam. So, assuming your FCQs are high, you will have 13 quizzes that determine your final grade for about 36% of it. Your critical thinking discussions are worth about 1/4 of your grade. Then your media club discussions, your outline, and your critical thinking essay determine the remainder of your grade. Discrimination or preventing discrimination is important to me. I suggest that if you feel that any peer or if I have discriminated against you in any way in this class, you should contact the Title IX office. Here's their email and their phone number. So we are going to touch on many sensitive topics in this class. I mean, this is almost, I'm not one. In fact, the neuroscience literature sort of suggests against trigger warnings that they can actually sort of sensitize us to trauma or make sort of the opposite of extinction therapy. But do know, just in general, that many sort of triggering sensitive topics are going to come up in this class. I do this, not to harm you. I do this because some of these topics are very important to consider in the context of drug addiction. You know, topics might include just drug use and observing. Some of the films will show graphic depictions of drug use. Some of the songs, some of the lectures might refer to drug use in various ways. You know, this could be, again, triggering to a variety of people. We'll talk about various psychiatric disorders at some periods of time. There's a high amount of comorbidity between drug abuse and addiction and substance abuse. Yeah, so, this could be traumatic to somebody that's suffering from a variety of these conditions. There will even be a couple times that concepts related to assault come up. In one film in particular, there's a scene that I think could be Requiem for a Dream is a very graphic depiction of an extreme example of drug addiction. And in it, I think that there is a scene that could be described as, sexual assault, if not, certainly psychological uh, persuasion involving sexual assault. And we'll also at times briefly bring up, how various drugs, particularly barbiturates, I would argue benzodiazepines to some extent, in addition to ketamine. Ketamine, I think, is one that very much concerns me here, has been used as tools of sexual assault. While traumatic and triggering, I think it is very important to still cover these concepts and be aware of them. Uh, so when you are, and another one that will come up is we will discuss drugs and how they have historically and also currently uh, differ in drug use and drug prescription, might differ in terms of race, sex, and gender. So, some of these are, controversial topics, and not everybody agrees on everything, and that is perfectly okay. What I would like you to do, if you do encounter an opinion that you disagree with, I mean, unless it is discriminatory, and then you should report it to Title IX. But if it is a topic, someone has an opinion that you disagree with, I would suggest that you challenge their ideas with thought and reason rather than avoidance and suppression, and challenge the idea, not the person. I encourage you to lean into difficult conversations and be willing to consider diverse perspectives. Even in terms of what drugs should be decriminalized, what drugs should be legal. I think you will see that we have very many different opinions on. And I think, just what is drug addiction in general and what should we do about drug addiction? I think that you will find that there are a diversity of opinions, everything from, I've seen the horrors of addiction. I'd really rather there be greater prohibition to, free heroin for everybody, when everything in between. So I would also like you to acknowledge that we come from different backgrounds and bring unique perspectives. I think that this is the greatest strength of CU Denver. I've taught at many different colleges at this point in time, And I just did a visiting professorship at Bates College, an elite, small liberal arts college that is, probably like 3% of its applicants are accepted to. Great discussions, however, very narrow-minded in scope. Everybody had very similar life experiences and perspectives. At CU Denver, it's very different. And I think that that can lead to the richest discussions and conversations I've ever experienced anywhere. So, the fact of the matter is, some of you are 18, traditional college students. Some of you are returning from a career, from the military, from having children, and have a whole bunch of different lived experiences. And we can all learn from each other. And that is wonderful. In the best classes that I've taken, I have learned as much, if not more, from my peers as the professor. That is my ultimate goal here, for us to think deeply and critically in a large learning community. I don't want to just sort of talk to you and indoctrinate you with my thinking. I want to share my thoughts with you and then also present some material for you all to discuss from your distinct perspectives. And then each of you forms your own opinion after hearing from hopefully the veteran, the parent, the 20-year career person coming back, and then the 18-year-old from the Highlands Ranch versus the 18-year-old, that's from a foreign country versus the 18-year-old from, Aurora, from an 18-year-old from Boulder, from an 18-year-old from the other slope. Uh, there should hopefully be a lot of different opinions and perspectives in these discussions. Do not make assumptions about others' identities based off of their comments. Uh, Acknowledge when you agree with your critics and what you've learned from them. And importantly, here, I think that especially in this class where we might be sharing some ideas or thoughts related to drugs and drug use, ideally, that will not be captured and shared on social media. You could have the next governor of Colorado in this very room exploring concepts related to drugs that could come to hurt them in the future. That there's just no need to share or try to shame or make an example out of somebody's opinion, in my opinion. I would also, in that same line of thinking, suggest that you consider carefully when you share personal drug stories. I'm not against it. I'm perfectly fine with you sharing stories. However, know that those are the things that especially when we're sharing things digitally, I can't control that somebody will not be recording and sharing this information. So Erowid is one site that I would recommend that I think does an excellent job of providing a forum to share and learn from direct drug experiences. You can gain a lot of information, knowledge through that site. It's an excellent place to share things more anonymously. And again, I'm not outlawing it, but I'm just saying be careful. So, and again, I've already brought this up, but just know that there are some sensitive topics that come up in this class. Yeah, I guess suicide and war are two that I haven't touched on. Socioeconomic status, prisons, various things that can be triggering to, various people based off of their and their families' lived experiences. If you are finding any topic, including lecture, difficult to deal with because you find it triggering, what I would like you to do is excuse yourself from that situation, leave, and then you can contact me and we will work out an alternative plan. First, you can even take a drop. But if it's a quiz, if it's a lecture, first of all, I should know so I can revise my lecture. And then we can find an alternative solution for that quiz. And if it's part of a peer discussion, you might want to leave or avoid that part of the peer discussion if it is goes from being challenging to legitimately triggering and traumatizing. Academic integrity is important here. I know and use a lot of AI myself. I'm actually a big advocate of the use of AI. However, AI should not be used to write your final draft of your final paper. Feel free to use it to bounce thoughts off of while writing your paper. Oh, and also don't use it to generate your media discussion posts or your critical thought posts. It's pretty obvious, when somebody is using it. One of the, and not to mention, when multiple students use it, you end up getting two or three posts that are very similar, and it's very clear that they've come from ChatGPT. So please don't be that person. So here you can see the schedule of events in every module. You'll have to listen to my lectures, complete a quiz, read the thought discussion material, post a thought paragraph, respond to your peers. And then I would also like you to join your media club, whether it be the film club or the music club. That will be your learning community. And then over the course of the term, you need to make 6 posts either about the media that you're consuming. You can also discuss the outline and the paper that you've decided to expand on and look for feedback from your peers. And you can also see the due dates here in the calendar. Here you can find the actual material for each module. For module 1, for example, we'll listen to Dr. David Nutt, who used to be sort of the leader of pharmacology in the UK. He was fired for arguing that psychedelics and MDMA are significantly less harmful than alcohol. And if anything, your opinion of those things should be flip-flopped. So I would like you to consider that and a few other concepts related to drug scheduling for our first week. Again, with all of these critical thinking discussions, that there really isn't a right answer. Uh, I don't, I really just want you to think deeply and critically. I myself have some issues with Dr. Nutt. There's some things that I agree with, and there's some things that I disagree with, including in his research article and his overall philosophies on drugs in general. For example, I brought in his own sort of alcohol alternative that he's marketing here to also have you think about critically, and how that might play into his overall philosophy here. Um, so, you'll follow that same format for every module throughout the term. Now, here's the media club here. This is what we get to at the very end here. So you will join either the film or movie club or the music club. 6 posts again are required to earn full credit for the discussion posts, and these need to be real discussion posts. Not just I listened to this song, period. I want a little deeper exploration of either the media or some bigger picture concept related to drugs. Don't phone it in. That's the only way that you cannot earn full credit here. I do acknowledge that I think the film and movie club takes a little bit more time to consume the media than the music mixtapes. For that reason, if you choose the movie club, you only need to submit a 3-page paper at the end of the term. And if you join the music club, you submit a 5-page paper at the end of the term. Here are the requirements for the paper, the guidelines that I need. And again, you do not need to consume all of the media. Pick and choose as you wish. I also encourage that you bring in your own media to discuss and write about. And most importantly, skip any movie or mixtape that you think might trigger trauma or thoughts of relapse, given your own personal experience. So here is the media that I have provided. These are all clickable links. Each of these are, films that I have procured, and they're things that, like, for if we were meeting in class, I would show them in class. So this is very similar to what I would do in that context. And then the mixed tapes you can click on, and it will bring you to a YouTube link. So that's how I've set this up. Birds of Passage is a fantastic exploration of um, sort of how the cannabis trade and farms have impacted indigenous communities. The first music mixtape is using about the use of drugs as self-medication or this thought of expanding the mind. Then we have Flight, a Denzel Washington film about sort of where uh, when ego and drugs get together, how might that lead to great harm for society, for all? Uh, and then here we have people just abusing drugs. Krisha is a great movie. It's painful to watch, I will warn you, but that is on purpose. It's the cinematography is made to make you feel that you are going through alcohol withdrawal. And it really touches on some of the family dynamics associated with drug abuse. This, in particular, leads to some great essays on Al-Anon and the family unit, how it is impacted by drug abuse. And then for the next mixtape, I focused on the drug deal. And I tried to make this, you think about this from many different perspectives. But yeah. Then next film is I included the four-part TV series by Bill Polian, on the use of psychedelics as therapeutic drugs. The next mixtape would be Drugs in Society, which is where we get into sort of some of the concepts associated with the prison system, the drug war, the family unit as well. It's a great one if you want to touch on the family unit or the prison system or the drug war in the music club side of things. On the film side of things, The House I Live In is perfect for this. This really focuses on the incarceration system and the drug war and how that's impacted minoritized populations. Now you get to some cannabis anthems. Again, this is one that you might want to skip if you have issues with cannabis dependence. But at the same time, you've probably heard a lot of these, and you might have a scathing rebuke of the cannabis anthems. Feel free to go down that route if you choose. We end up with two sort of, more popular drug films. Drugstore Cowboy explores, prescription pills and uh, theft of various drugs and poly drug abuse. And then Requiem for a Dream, some might argue is an over the top. Some might argue it's a quite apt uh, depiction of drug addiction in the most graphical style, as the director tends to do. He really, tries to punch you in the nose with, what this could look like in the most extreme setting. And, that they can be unsettling. And then here, I with the mixtapes, I also try to create sort of a life arc here. I think it's not that uncommon that people start exploring with drugs for a variety of reasons, and then end up here with the realization that getting clean ain't easy. It's a very difficult process, recovery. And then finally, a lot of these artists have had experiences with drugs, either with their family or themselves, and ultimately come to the conclusion that they almost are begging you to stay sober. And you'll find that in many of these songs, there are many songs out there that are almost party anthems that people dance to and party to. And then if you really listen to the lyrics, they are telling you to stay away from this. There's some wise poetry in there that I think it would behoove you to listen to. Here is a template that you can follow to create your outline for the essay that will be based off of any thought that is inspired from this media club here. Again, I don't want to hamper your creative thought at all. I've only rejected one outline in history and have received just so many different topics. Feel free to explore anything related to drugs here, whether it be the drug war or environmental impacts. the effects of drugs on the family unit. Maybe you want to do an analysis of how film or music leads people, like how do these cannabis anthems lead people to abuse drugs? Maybe the response to Anslinger and Reefer Madness have gone too far the other way. You, so anyway, you can really have complete creative freedom with that. And here, finally, I will leave you with some links to that you can use that CU Denver offers, including the Counseling Center, the Disability Resources and Services Center, the Office of Equity, and the Writing Center. I do suggest that you consider bringing or emailing your essay or submitting your essay to the Writing Center. You are paying for it. If you do not use this resource, you are essentially wasting your money. So that's all I have for you. I really hope you enjoyed this class. Intended to be as thought-provoking and engaging as possible. I am always trying to update it and make it more interesting. If you have alternative thoughts or suggestions for improvement, I am very open to them. Again, please feel free to request a Zoom meeting at any time. I'm here for you. I will also respond to email and will otherwise see you in the discussion comments. Thank you, and I look forward to a great term.